Hey everyone, I'm working to hit 1,000 subscribers, and I need your help to get there. If you enjoy this content, please hit that subscribe button right now.
That's great about baseball right now. You had stars performing at historically great levels. You had individual and team performances that were beyond expectations. And you had more series than ever go the distance, including the World Series, which I've covered 22 of them now.
Hold on to your seats, baseball fans, because what I'm about to tell you is absolutely mind-blowing. ESPN's Jeff Passan, the godfather of baseball insiders, the man who doesn't speak unless it's gospel truth, just dropped a bombshell so massive it could literally reshape the entire landscape of Major League Baseball. We're talking about a potential trade that would make the Dodgers even more terrifyingly dominant than they already are. We're talking about Tariq Skubal, the back-to-back American League Cy Young winner, potentially heading to Los Angeles in what could be the blockbuster deal of the decade. Now, before we dive headfirst into this absolute madness, let me set the stage for you. When Jeff Passan talks, the baseball world listens. This isn't some random reporter throwing spaghetti at the wall, hoping something sticks. This isn't John Heyman with his cryptic tweets or Bob Nightingale with his hot takes. This is the Jeff Passan, the cream of the crop, the insider's insider. When he publishes something, you better believe there's real fire behind that smoke. And what he just published has sent shockwaves through every front office in baseball. Passan released his list of the top 25 players who could be traded in the 2025 to 2026 MLB offseason. But here's the kicker. This isn't ranked by who's most likely to be traded. Oh no, this is ranked by talent, by pure baseball value. And sitting pretty at number one, towering above every other name on that list, is Tariq Skubal. That's right. The most valuable potential trade piece in all of baseball is the Detroit Tigers ace, the man who just accomplished something we haven't seen in over 2 decades. Let's talk about what makes Skubal so special. Because this guy isn't just good, he's historically great. Skubal became the first pitcher to win back-to-back Cy Young awards in the American League since 1998 and 99. Think about that for a second. In an era of pitch counts and load management, in a time when aces get shut down after 170 innings, this man threw 195 innings with a 2.21 ERA. His WHIP was below .9. He struck out 241 batters while allowing just 18 home runs. The guy was basically unhittable, averaging just 6.5 hits per 9 innings. And if you want to see something truly beautiful, just pull up Skubal's Baseball Savant page. It's a sea of red. And I'm not talking about a few red spots here and there. I'm talking about elite level metrics across the board. The only things he's even remotely average at are extension and ground ball percentage. And honestly, who cares? When batters can barely touch the ball, it doesn't matter if it's a ground ball or a fly ball. The barrel percentage might be a touch high, but again, when you're not making contact in the first place, that statistic becomes completely irrelevant. So here's where things get absolutely fascinating and frankly kind of messy for the Detroit Tigers. According to Matthew Corey's report, when the Tigers sat down to negotiate a contract extension with their ace, their superstar, their franchise cornerstone, they offered him less than $80 million for 4 years. And let me repeat that because it sounds even more ridiculous the second time. Less than $80 million for 4 years. For a back-to-back Cy Young winner. For a guy who's only 30 years old and in his absolute prime. To put this in perspective, that offer would leave the two sides more than $320 million apart in their negotiations. That's not a gap. That's the Grand Canyon. That's the Tigers essentially saying, hey, we know you're one of the best pitchers on planet Earth, but we're going to lowball you so hard you'll think we're joking. Except they weren't joking, and that's exactly why trade rumors have exploded around Skubal like a firework factory on the 4th of July. Now, the Tigers are playing it cool publicly. They're telling everyone who will listen that Skubal is their centerpiece, that they intend to contend next season, that they're not trading him under any circumstances, and to be fair, they have legitimate reasons to keep him. Detroit surprised everyone last season, coming within a few outs of reaching the American League Championship Series. They're a young team on the rise, and Skubal is the foundation of everything they're trying to build. Trading him would be admitting that their window isn't quite open yet, and teams hate doing that. But here's where Jeff Passan's report gets really interesting. Despite the Tigers' public stance, despite all their talk about keeping Skubal and competing in 2026, Passan notes that several executives around baseball believe Skubal will be moved. These aren't casual observers. These are the people who actually make these decisions, the general managers and front office executives who understand that sometimes what teams say publicly and what they do privately are two completely different things. Think about it from Detroit's perspective. Skubal is 30 years old right now. His trade value has literally never been higher. He just won his second consecutive Cy Young Award. Every contending team in baseball would empty their farm system to get him. The Tigers could get an absolute haul, potentially landing 4 or 5 top prospects who could contribute for years to come. And here's the brutal reality. Contract extension talks have gone absolutely nowhere. If Detroit truly believes they're more than $300 million apart from what Skubal wants, why would they risk losing him for nothing in free agency after 2026? This is where the Dodgers enter the picture, and oh boy, do they enter with force. According to Passan's report, Los Angeles is listed as one of the top potential destinations for Skubal. The Mets are number 1 on the list, which makes sense given Steve Cohen's unlimited checkbook and their desperate need for frontline starting pitching. But the Dodgers are right there at number 2, and honestly, that might be even scarier for the rest of baseball. Let's talk about what the Dodgers' rotation would look like if they somehow landed Skubal. Right now, they're already stacked. Yoshinobu Yamamoto, the young phenom who dazzled in his first season. Tyler Glasnow, when healthy, is one of the most electric pitchers in baseball. Blake Snell just had a fantastic second half when he finally got going. Shohei Ohtani, the best player on planet Earth, is expected to return to the mound. They've got guys like Gavin Stone and River Ryan who showed real promise. And they're the overwhelming favorites to land Roki Sasaki, the Japanese sensation who might be the best pitching prospect in the world. Now imagine adding Tariq Skubal to that mix. Picture a playoff rotation of Skubal, Yamamoto, Ohtani, and Snell. That's not just unfair. That's borderline criminal. That's the kind of rotation that doesn't just win championships. It dominates them. That's the kind of depth that means even if 2 guys go down with injuries, you're still rolling out 3 aces. Some people might ask why the Dodgers would even pursue Skubal when their rotation is already so loaded. That's a fair question, and it deserves a thoughtful answer. First, injuries happen. The Dodgers learned this lesson the hard way last season when their rotation was absolutely decimated by trips to the injured list. Having 6 or 7 legitimate starting pitchers isn't a luxury in modern baseball, it's a necessity. Second, if they're seriously considering trading Tyler Glasnow, which has been rumored, then suddenly that rotation has a very real hole that needs filling. Third, and perhaps most importantly, when you have a chance to acquire a talent like Skubal, you don't overthink it. You just do it. The question becomes, what would it cost the Dodgers to pry Skubal away from Detroit? This is where things get complicated because the Tigers would rightfully demand a king's ransom. We're talking about multiple top prospects, probably including some combination of their best young position players and pitching prospects. You know, the Dodgers have one of the deepest farm systems in baseball, so they have the ammunition to make a deal happen. But would they be willing to part with their future for 2 years of Skubal before he hits free agency? Here's where the strategy gets really interesting. If the Dodgers acquire Skubal, they'd almost certainly try to extend him immediately. They've shown they're not afraid of massive contracts, having just handed out huge deals to Ohtani and Yamamoto. And adding Skubal's contract to that list wouldn't break their bank, especially with the way their ownership group operates. They could acquire him, extend him for 7 or 8 years, and suddenly have their rotation locked down for the next decade. But there's another angle to consider, one that Passan himself mentions in his report. Skubal turns 30 after the 2026 season. That's not old by any means, but it's the age where pitchers sometimes start to decline. The question isn't whether Skubal is great now, it's whether he can sustain this level of dominance into his mid-30s. History tells us that most pitchers don't maintain Cy Young level performance forever. Velocity drops, mechanics change, injuries pile up. It's the nature of the position. Does this mean Skubal is about to fall off a cliff? Absolutely not. The guy is in his prime and showing no signs of slowing down. But it's a legitimate consideration for any team thinking about committing $300 million or more to a pitcher. It's also a consideration for the Tigers, who might be thinking that if they're going to move Skubal, Now is the time to maximize their return. The other factor working in the Dodgers' favor is timing. The current collective bargaining agreement expires after the 2026 season. Nobody knows exactly what the next CBA will look like, but there's always uncertainty around major labor negotiations. The Dodgers could theoretically acquire Skubal, ride him for 2 seasons while they chase back-to-back-to-back championships, and then reassess their financial situation once the new CBA landscape becomes clear. It's a calculated risk, but it's one that a championship-caliber organization is perfectly positioned to take. Let's not forget about the other teams in the mix because the Dodgers aren't operating in a vacuum here. The Mets are lurking with Steve Cohen's bottomless wallet. The Orioles have the best farm system in baseball and desperately need an ace to complement their young core. The Yankees are always looking for that next superstar to put them over the top. The Red Sox are trying to return to relevance. The Giants want to make a splash. Every contender is going to at least make a phone call about Skubal's availability. But here's what separates the Dodgers from everyone else. They're not just trying to build a winner, they're trying to build a dynasty. They're not content with one championship. They want to be in position to win it all every single year. Adding Skubal wouldn't just make them the favorites in 2026. It would potentially lock them in as World Series contenders for the next half-decade. So what are the actual odds that Skubal gets traded this offseason? That's the million-dollar question, or more accurately, the $300 million question. The smart money says it's still unlikely. The Tigers seem genuinely committed to keeping him, at least publicly. They believe they're a contending team, and trading your best player when you're trying to win doesn't usually make sense. But baseball is a business, and businesses make calculated decisions based on long-term value. If I had to put a number on it, I'd say there's maybe a 30 to 40% chance Skubal gets moved this winter. That might not sound like great odds, but it's way higher than it should be for a 30-year-old ace coming off back-to-back Cy Young seasons. The fact that we're even having this conversation tells you everything you need to know about where contract negotiations stand between Skubal and the Tigers. Here's the scenario that could change everything. The Tigers enter spring training with Skubal on the roster. They start the season with high expectations, but then maybe they struggle out of the gate. Maybe they're hovering around 500 by the trade deadline. Suddenly, that decision to keep Skubal looks a lot different. Suddenly, trading him for a massive prospect haul makes a lot more sense, especially if they're convinced they can't or won't pay him what he'll command in free agency. The Dodgers, meanwhile, would be waiting in the wings. They've got the prospects, they've got the payroll flexibility, and most importantly, they've got the organizational infrastructure to maximize Skubal's talents. Pitching in Dodger Stadium, working with the best pitching development staff in baseball, being surrounded by elite talent at every position, that's an environment where a great pitcher can become a legendary one. And let's be honest for a second, as scary as the Dodgers already are, as much as they just won the World Series, as dominant as they've been, adding Tariq Skubal would take them to a completely different stratosphere. It would be the kind of move that makes other teams just give up before the season even starts. It would be the kind of roster construction that we'd be talking about for decades. The buzz around this story is only going to intensify as we move deeper into the offseason. Every time the Tigers make a move, people will ask if it means they're positioning to trade Skubal. Every time Skubal posts on social media, people will analyze it for hidden meaning. Every time Jeff Passan tweets, the baseball world will hold its collective breath, hoping for another update. What we know for certain is this: Tariq Skubal is one of the best pitchers in baseball. His contract situation with Detroit is messy at best. Multiple teams, including the Dodgers, are monitoring the situation closely, and the potential for a trade exists, even if it's not the most likely outcome. That's enough to make this one of the most compelling storylines of the entire offseason. So what do you think? Are the Tigers actually going to trade their ace, or is this all just smoke and mirrors? Would the Dodgers be smart to go all in on Skubal, even with their already loaded rotation? What would you be willing to give up from the farm system to make this happen? These are the questions that are going to dominate baseball conversation for the next few months, and honestly, I can't wait to see how it all plays out. Make sure you drop a comment below with your prediction. Give this video a thumbs up if you want to see the Dodgers pull off this absolutely insane trade, and hit that subscribe button because we're going to be covering every single twist and turn of this story as it develops. When Jeff Passan speaks, we listen. And when the Dodgers make moves, we're here to break it all down for you. This is going to be one wild offseason, and you definitely don't want to miss a single second of it.